everybody, and welcome back to the Blossom Review. How are you? Today I thought that we could do something a little bit different from usual. So these days you might have noticed a greater number of Japanese remakes of Korean dramas and vice versa. So for example, everybody has been talking about the Japanese version of Marry My Husband lately, or just the other day Coupang Play released the very first teaser trailer for Confidence Queen, which is a Korean remake of Fuji TV's The Confidence Man. So I thought that we could choose one of these most recent remakes and try to compare them a little bit. So just a few days ago we saw the release of the last episode of MBS's Ayashii Partner, which is a Japanese remake of SBS's Suspicious Partner. So what makes these shows different and what makes these shows the same? So this is what we're discussing today. If you haven't watched the Suspicious Partner or Ayashii Partner, that's absolutely fine. This video I think is mostly spoiler free. I might mention a couple of things later, but before I do, I'll let you know so you can skip it. So for now, you can just follow me. So we have the same premise for both shows. We are introduced to a righteous prosecutor who is mortified when a young judicial apprentice mistakenly accuses him of harassing her on public transport. After this very strange first encounter, they thought that they would never meet ever again, they would never see each other ever again in life, until later on that same day, the prosecutor witnesses the apprentice in a heated argument with her boyfriend, who seems to have been cheating on her. This second encounter leads to a couple of drinks and a night together that our female protagonist, the apprentice, doesn't seem to recall. So the following morning she doesn't really remember what happened. So things get even more awkward between them because the apprentice is assigned to the prosecutor's department to complete her training, so then they are forced to work together. So the premise is the same, but what about the running time? So Suspicious Partner is composed of 21-hour episodes. So you have 20 hours in total of content, which were drastically reduced to 12 episodes of 25 minutes each in the Japanese remake. So let's say the Suspicious Partner has 20 episodes, okay? Episodes 1 to 8 from both shows are extremely similar, with certain scenes happening in the exact same way, with almost identical dialogue, framing, and blocking. Still, condensing 1 hour into 25 minutes means that everything happens very, very fast. And with editing that feels a bit brusque at times, Ayashii Partner sometimes unfolds in an unnatural, jumpy sort of way. Then episodes 9 to 12 in the Japanese remake actually blend events and elements from episodes 9 to 20 of the original Korean version. Why? Because from episode 9, what happens in Suspicious Partner is that they start adding a lot of extra storylines to prolong the mystery and the drama. So to create shorter installments, tighter installments, Ayashii Partner mixes and matches elements from different episodes to pretty much eliminate secondary storylines, to reduce misunderstanding, and to mostly resolve romantic conflicts between the leads more swiftly. So I think this goes to show how Suspicious Partner sort of sags halfway through its narrative. People say that less is more, right? But here, not necessarily. So let's talk about the narrative structure of both series. Here I might mention some spoilers, very mild spoilers, but if you don't want any spoilers, you can skip this chapter. Suspicious Partner is a legal thriller rom-com which set out to deliver laughter, tears, shy giggles, and a chilling mystery. So the script was conceptually quite bold and daring, but not particularly unique, considering that 2017 also saw the release of shows like Why You're Sleeping, Witch at Court, Judge vs. Judge, and even Queen of Mystery. Even though Suspicious Partner starts strong, the narrative soon becomes convoluted. The pacing, the character development, the romantic relationships all progress at a very inconsistent rhythm, with story beats that feel more convenient than natural. The mystery is fairly formulaic, with a flimsy investigative process and events that happen haphazardly and even miraculously at times. Narratively, Suspicious Partner isn't exactly cohesive and offers a loose plot whose elements get lost throughout or are stretched thin by the end of the show. Because in order to cover all its 20 hours, the script seems forced to repeat scenarios, to exaggerate conflicts, and to add unnecessary secondary storylines that only really distract the audience from the character and main storyline development that the show needed. And then you can turn to me and say, but Karen, I love Suspicious Partner, it's one of my favorite shows, it makes me feel so happy and it's wonderful. Absolutely, absolutely. This thing with the narrative structure is something very technical, to be honest, and it doesn't really affect how much you can enjoy a show. You can connect with a show because of different things and not because of the narrative structure. So it's absolutely fine. I think different stories resonate in different ways with different people, and that's part of the magic of art, I think. But I am mentioning this here because I think there's comparison between Suspicious Partner and Ayashii Partner goes to prove how a shorter show doesn't necessarily make for a narratively sound show, let's say. So just because a show is shorter, it doesn't mean that its narrative is necessarily better structured or better executed. So I think both shows suffer from opposite problems, let's say. I think Suspicious Partner is a bit too long and Ayashii Partner is a bit too short. Unfortunately, even though Ayashii Partner gets rid of most of the useless melodramatic fluff, it sticks so faithfully to the original that it presents the same narrative flaws. So for example, despite its shorter runtime, Ayashii Partner keeps most of the romantic melodrama from the original. It also keeps the tragic backstories, but in this case, they just squish this backstory into very rushed sequences without proper setup, let's say. So they were trying to do a lot in very little time, while Suspicious Partner, let's say, it had quite a bit of meat to it, but then it wasn't enough for 20 hours. So let's say the plot of Suspicious Partner is not enough for 20 hours, but is too much for 4 hours that you have in Ayashii Partner. Is that clear? I don't know if you guys agree with me, please let me know in the comments. Ayashii Partner focuses on one series of crimes only, which would make for the main storyline from the original version. So everything revolves around this core mystery. So to make it work, the script reduces and simplifies the scope of the crime and allows most of the development and the investigation to happen behind the camera. So you don't really see it happening, you only really see the result of it, let's say. This extreme reduction, in addition to the jumpy editing that I mentioned before, inevitably makes the progression of the narrative feel a bit more stilted. And it reduces the opportunities we have to show motivation, to strengthen the characterization effectively. So I think this is a big difference between Suspicious Partner and Ayashii Partner, is that Ayashii Partner feels colder. It doesn't have the emotional weight that Suspicious Partner has, because Suspicious Partner, sometimes you have moments, you have scenes that exist only to strengthen characterization or to emphasize bonds between characters or just to emphasize the characters' motivations. And you don't really have the opportunity to do these things in Ayashii Partner. So Ayashii Partner is more, let's say, focused on an objective. So let's solve this crime. So it feels colder in comparison to Suspicious Partner. But we can say that Ayashii Partner feels more like a mystery guessing game than Suspicious Partner, because Ayashii Partner decided to remove the villain's point of view up until the end of episode 7 out of 12. So Suspicious Partner gives us answers earlier on in the narrative. So it shows us the world through the eyes of the villain earlier on, while keeping its protagonists in the dark. Ayashii Partner does things slightly different. So Ayashii Partner allows us to learn key information alongside the protagonists and not before them. So the Korean version eliminates the mystery sooner, so we learn key information before the protagonists do. But they replace this mystery game with, let's say, with the tension of the mind games that happen between our heroes and the villain. So this is a matter of preference, of course. It depends on what kind of story you like the most. But something that I think was very, very positive about the remake is that Ayashii Partner completely removed the memory loss storyline, which was an awfully cliched plot device used in the original, and it doesn't exist in Ayashii Partner, thank goodness. But if you are a legal drama fan, beware. The court scenes in Suspicious Partner are hands down much better structured, much better delivered, much better executed than the ones in Ayashii Partner. So you have advantages and disadvantages in both shows. But then what about the characters? So despite its narrative weaknesses, Suspicious Partner has a charm of its own, thanks to the bonds created between characters. So the show offers this very wide cast of supporting characters and creates this little found family in the relationship between Ji-wook, Bong-hee, Yoon-hyuk, Chief Bang and CEO Byung. Yoon-hyuk, the second male lead, plays a very active role in the narrative, and he establishes a fairly solid relationship with both Ji-wook and Bong-hee. You also have Bong-hee's and Ji-wook's mothers in the show. You have Bong-hee's old classmate, Ji-hye, right? Her name is Ji-hye, right? So you also have her old classmate who gets a fair share of screen time, let's all be honest. Now, regardless of how fleshed out these characters become or how necessary all of their scenes are, these individuals make the universe of Suspicious Partner feel inhabited, feel warm, and it ensures that Ji-wook and Bong-hee aren't really alone in their struggles. They have sort of a support system that they can rely on. Meanwhile, Ayashii Partner offers a much quieter world. So for example, you don't have the mothers here, you don't have Ji-hye, so Bong-hee's old classmate. They don't really exist in this version. And the second male lead, Umehara-ren in this case, loses a lot of his screen time too. So Ren ends up a supporting character who is often underused, making his background connection with Haruto and his eventual friendship with Sakura feel a lot shallower. The second couple in Ayashii Partner also have very few scenes together. So if they weren't your favorite thing about the original Suspicious Partner, I think you appreciate Ayashii Partner for its, its decision to eliminate most of their scenes together. So overall, relationships in Ayashii Partner feel a lot colder. Even though Chief Bang and CEO Byung have their counterparts, their equivalents in the Japanese remake, they don't really have that found family that you see in Suspicious Partner, in the original Suspicious Partner, and their relationship seems to be strictly professional. So Haruto and Sakura seem to be alone in the world, only having each other to count on. So while the supporting cast in Suspicious Partner makes us feel like it's us against them, the lack of an active supporting cast in Ayashii Partner makes us feel like it's our true protagonists against the world. So I think that's why Ayashii Partner loses a lot of the emotional weight that you find in Suspicious Partner. The idea of Haruto and Sakura against the world is also delivered through the show's general tone. So Ayashii Partner dials down the melodrama and the comedy, making it a much more subdued story. Actually, in the Japanese remake, there are barely any scenes that exist for pure comical silliness. So much so that the comedy, when it does happen, it feels a bit out of place because the show focuses a lot more on its more serious, more dramatic sequences. The color and lighting are also softer and more muted, and even the delivery is a lot more restrained too. Now, the tone of Suspicious Partner is completely different. Suspicious Partner is more colorful, is brighter, and it has more of that classic rom-com charm to it, delivering the story in a much more cheerful and humorous manner. It can be fairly melodramatic at times though, which makes a few scenes feel a bit cliche and a bit repetitive. But Suspicious Partner is a lot more cheerful than Ayashii Partner. Of course, the tone is also created by the performances, and I think we can all agree that Suspicious Partner is Ji Chang-wook's show. He is extraordinary in it. He navigates drama, romance, action, comedy with ease. He's just so expressive. And he knows exactly how to respond to different performances and different scenarios. He is great, and I think we can all agree that he is the star of the show. Nam Ji-hyun does comedy very well, and her chemistry with Chang-wook is quite electric, which the script takes full advantage of, especially for its more saccharine scenes, let's say. So the bar is set quite high here for sure. Even though Ayashii Partner has a different tone to it, it still makes a bit of drama, a bit of thriller, a bit of romance, and a bit of comedy. However, the cast seems to be more comfortable in that sort of slice of life, romantic kind of delivery, which means that they often lack the timing and the subtlety for comedy and more intense drama. So here I need to highlight that Tosa Kazunari, who plays one of the supporting characters, he has the sharpest comic timing in this cast, and that makes a difference. But the rest of the cast, I don't know if it's because they were so focused on imitating the original to a T that they didn't really make this show, they didn't really create their own versions of the characters, which, you know, makes a big difference at the end of the day. But Yagi and Saito respond very, very well to each other. They work very well together, and I think they show their best performances in scenes of more traditional romance, let's say. Of course, it doesn't help that Sakura is a much less active female protagonist, which limits what Saito could have conveyed with her female lead. So Sakura is not as active, is not as proactive, and she doesn't really show up in vital scenes like she does in Suspicious Partner. So there is a big difference between the two female leads here, between Sakura and Bong-hee, and I think that affects what Saito could have conveyed in her performance as well. So, Suspicious Partner or Ayashii Partner, which drama should you watch? If you're looking for a short or quick-paced story that focuses on one single objective, I think Ayashii Partner is the show for you. Now, if you're looking for something longer with a lot of secondary storylines, then I think Suspicious Partner will fit the bill just fine. Remember that Suspicious Partner is more colorful, more cheerful, and more comical, while Ayashii Partner offers a more sober drama. Even though the premise is the same and the plot unfolds in very, very similar ways, the Korean original is more of a mind game sort of thriller. If you prefer a more traditional mystery, I think the delivery of the Japanese remake might satisfy you a little bit more. I think both the shows offer a lot of cute and romantic scenes between their leads. But if you are looking for a wider supporting cast that gives the show this emotional warmth, then I think Suspicious Partner is more of your thing. So remember that Suspicious Partner can be watched, can be found on YouTube, on Viki, on Netflix, on Cocoa, while Ayashii Partner can be found on Viki or Disney Plus, depending on where you are. Quick reminder that this comparison is also on the Blossom review. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to check it out. And over on Substack, we reviewed a Japanese movie called Cells at Work, which you can watch on Netflix. If you want to give it a read, I'll also leave a link in the description for you. Now, I hope you leave a comment with your own thoughts and ideas on Suspicious Partner and Ayashii Partner, and I really hope that you like this video and you subscribe so I can see you here every week for a new review. Thank you so very much. Take very good care of yourself and have a wonderful day today. Big kiss.